Welcome, everybody. We are the Super Monkey Fighters. I am Loki here with a very jovial Papa Nugget and
Sometimes.
Monkey Feathers, who's just herself today. So nothing special or not special about Monkey Feathers today, just a regular Monkey Feathers. This week, we are delving into the 2020 film Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. If you don't know what this one is, it is the story of a blues band that during a recording session, tensions rise between Ma Rainey, her ambitious horn player, and the white management determined to control the uncontrollable mother of the blues. It was directed by George C. Wolfe. The screenplay was written by Ruben Santiago Hudson. It is based off of the play by August Wilson. It stars Viola Davis. This was actually the last film that Chadwick Boseman made before he passed away from cancer. Also stars Coleman Domingo, Glenn Turman, Michael Potts, Jeremy Shamos, and Johnny Coyne, as well as Taylor Page and Dusan Brown. First thoughts?
So first off, I did not really care for this film, mainly because it was depicting the style of a play, which it was based on, in which I don't like plays. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's not my thing. I will give it credit. The fact that the biggest thing that I felt it had going for it was, even within the play style, is that they're making very tight shots on everyone that was speaking and holding a very close depth of field, which makes sense when you're in a play, because it's all dialogue driven. Mm-hmm. And that's what this movie is. And that's what I hate at the same time.
It's a lot of dialogue. So I actually loved the fact that it was it still felt like a play. But it really does only feel like that mostly because it is very dialogue heavy. And there are several, it takes place in roughly 2 different locations mostly. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of scenes outside of that, but it's the rehearsal room and it's the recording room. And that's about it. Which that really lends itself to being, this was a play, and then the dialogue. But they do actually some interesting camera work. So it's not just, hey, let's just set the camera in the room and let the play happen in front of us, right? It's still.
I noticed a lot of moving camera work as people were walking. The camera was backing up as they're walking towards the camera, or a lot of sweeping camera, especially like around the recording room where Ma Rainey walks in, or she's walking around and the camera will swoop around or come around or things like that. So that's something that I did notice, was a lot of the camera work, that even though it was in 2 locations, basically one building, but 2 locations. Yeah. It wasn't just stationary camera work. A lot of the time it was moving to help give movement to the scene and to provide a breakup.
With that breakup, it's still shot in a way that with the play, the actors are still on stage, like existing in their roles in the background doing stuff. So you still see all of that going on, and then they'll like walk in to say their line and move out. So it feels like a play. And if you're not into that kind of a thing, it can be very jarring. His first kind of interaction with all of the characters together in the rehearsal room, I don't know what was going on, just because there were so many words thrown at me.
Yes.
But it also helped establish the characters and the dynamics, because the only thing that I took out of that scene was conflict. There's tension between everybody. Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell you the details of any of it, but there's tension between Chadwick Boseman's character and the rest of the band.
That describes the entire movie.
They're alluding to the tension. Yeah, and they're alluding to the tensions between Chadwick Boseman's character and everybody else, and Ma Rainey and everyone else. And it's dialogue after dialogue after dialogue. I still really enjoyed that aspect of it. I think they pulled that off for what it is really well. If you don't like the style, it's not going to land for you.
Like, I can appreciate things that I don't care for, in the fact that it is what it is. I feel like this is one of those films that I can appreciate and acknowledge when something is done right or done well, even though I don't enjoy it in the style that it's performed. And I think this is one of those movies.
Yeah.
But that's because of my personal taste and what I like to see films done as. So even though it's not my cup of tea, like I will definitely give it credit for what it has accomplished.
That was, I think, perfect. And even there's an interlude moment with the monologue with I believe the character's Toledo, the pianist, where he just has a little monologue in the middle of him playing the piano and nobody else in the room. Like, you know, that little breakup structure, like a play where it's like, okay, we're changing sets, so put this dude out in front of everybody with the curtain down so that we can move the sets back and forth. And then, that's where that came from. So I loved it. Feathers, what are your thoughts on plays as movies?
I think it can sometimes be a hit or miss. I'm also thinking of Shakespeare plays where you get a lot of those being put into movies. So I think it can be a hit or miss when it comes to plays being done as movies.
Those are also usually modern retellings of.
Well, I'm classifying plays together as a whole. But I think this one did fairly well in it being converted, so to speak, into a movie. I did feel that it was very well acted. In finding out that Viola Davis, finding out that she wasn't singing in this, I felt was interesting because she very much went for the role of Ma Rainey. And if I didn't know that she didn't sing in this, I would have thought, oh man, she's a great singer and she performs fairly well as a singer. It's the same with Chadwick, where I don't think he played the trumpet, but he
learned how for this movie. That's the dedication that he had. Is he learned at least the finger placement so that he could look like he was doing it.
Right, but when you think about it, he acted very well as a trumpet player, and the fact that he was battling stage 4 cancer, but he still acted the hell out of this. It's a testament to him and his dedication to what he was doing. I liked that you had the interaction with the band where it there was tension, but at times they were joking with each other and they were cracking laughs and they were making fun of each other's shoes and things like that. But then it went back to a lot of the tension. So in the beginning of this film, it's a little bit more lighthearted, cracking jokes. The trumpet player, the horn player, Levee, he wants to start his own band and he wants to do his own thing. And the other band members are just saying, nope, Ma Rainey, got to play her songs. You got to do what she wants.
Yeah.
And
that was Cutler. I don't know if it was the self-imposed manager of the band or the official manager of the band, but yes, he was basically the big daddy that knew the reality of the band. In which the arrogant Levee was constantly butting heads against.
Yep, and that's one of the things I like. This showcases a lot. Is it's not just like the tensions of the time, 1927 Chicago, right? There's the racial tensions and the racial disparity that they very much showcase here, but it's also the disparity between age and youth and managers and employees and business partners and all of those kinds of things. Like all of this is on display, and that's the perfect thing that showcases with Levee and Cutler. And the rest of the band as well, like especially Toledo. Like Toledo represents that. You know, I've been through life. I've had my ups and downs, and you're this young kid who's just walking into all of these mistakes that we've all been through, and just seeing those different perspectives of life through those, I think, is really awesome. and showcased really well within this, and just the frictions and the tensions that come from that. So
even the interaction that Ma Rainey has with the producers, where she's not going to be walked over and she's fighting for basically her voice and her music. And at the end of the day, she knows that she's worth what she's demanding. And then you get Levee, who just kind of walks in off the street, thinks that he's all that, and he expects that the producers are just going to cut him a deal for his songs, and he's going to be writing them and playing them and all that.
yeah,
But it just kind of shows that Ma Rainey has more power than he does in the music world, because in my opinion, and I don't know if this is exactly what the movie intended, but she's more well known and people are going to pay for her over paying for an unknown artist like Levee.
Well, it's the other lesson is that, you know, the thing that the lesson Levee hasn't learned is that people are going to take advantage of you. And he's expecting that this is the world that was promised to me, so I'm going to get what was promised to me. And that's his interaction with the studio, the engineer, record. I don't even know what his official title would be.
I think the producers.
So, the owner of the recording studio.
Yeah.
You know, he's that relationship and that dynamic is very obviously somebody taking advantage of somebody else.
He's very naive.
And he tries to do the same things. Yeah, he tries to do the same things with Ma Rainey, and Ma Rainey's like, no. Like, she's like, it wasn't a problem until with paying her nephew to do the voice intro.
Sylvester.
Like, it wasn't a problem until you realized that I didn't sign the release because you didn't have what you needed from me. Mm-hmm. So you're still doing everything that you can to make me happy. As soon as I sign that paper, I'm nothing. You know, you don't care. You're going to do whatever you can to get from me as much as you can. And that's the lesson that Levee doesn't learn and that everyone else in the room knows.
Yep. Because they've been around the block and they understand how business works. And I'm sure back in the 20s, like it was even more cutthroat. Because everyone's just trying to make a buck.
I think the acting is what carries this.
It has to, yes.
Yes. I mean, it has to, and that's why I think it's a well-known play. It's I think that's why. That's what's on showcase here. This is very much an actor's showcase, and within those performances, I mean, Levee, that first scene where they're all going back and forth when they're all rehearsing, and we don't know what's going on because there's just a lot of talking really fast back and forth about everything, and it's a group of people who's been together enough that they're very comfortable just, you know, going off. But it very quickly turns into like the darkest moment in Levee's life, or him recounting the darkest moment in Levee's life. And it's the performance in that, especially in that scene. Like, I don't understand his pain, but I can feel his pain because he puts it on display there. And so you can understand, or like I said, you can't understand, but you feel and you empathize with everything that you're going through with him. And then you understand him as a character and all of the decisions that he's making. He's just trying to get through the world as best he can based on those experiences.
And what makes him as a person. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And everybody else kind of showcases that as well. Ma Rainey does that. She said, all they want is my voice. And as soon as they have it down on that recording, you know, they'll roll off of me and pull their pants back up and leave. And they're done. Like that's
it for anyone. Like,
yeah. Well, and especially that's that's what that industry is.
Yeah, especially music. Yeah. Like, it's people trying to make money, make a buck off other people, right? Well, you have people with talent and you have people without talent, or they can put it into a medium that makes magic for people.
Yeah, and you know, that's a little bit of Ma's frustrations with Levee, and the band's frustration with Levee is Levee wants to do what he wants to do. He wants to play the music the way he wants to play it, and they don't. They want to. It's all about Ma, and it's Ma. You know, Ma's the big show, and so she wants to do it her way, and doesn't care about Levee. Like, he's just there to you know, I need a trumpet player.
He's a hired hand
because you're a hired hand. Do your job and go home. And the other three have accepted that, and they're grateful for it because, you know, they make their money and they go home. And that's why I just remembered the opening sequence between them is Levee spent a week's worth of pay on a pair of shoes, and he's happy about his shoes. And they're all talking about how foolish he is because he blew all of his money on shoes. And, you know, these are the kinds of guys who are socking away as much money as they possibly can so they can stop working. And, you know, to them, the stability of life is what's more important. And so it's this amazing, just kind of nexus of all these different stories and different people in different places in their lives. And just, it's performed really well. I mean,
I would agree with
go through
everything you said. Just to say.
Oh, one other, like, it's probably on Feather's list as well, but the costumes were amazing.
The only thing that I will say is I wasn't a fan of the new shoes that the guy got.
Oh, the yellow?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of those shoes.
Those
but
were
make him happy.
hip shoes. What?
Yeah.
They weren't avocado green fans, so let's
Yeah.
Not to say anything specific, but yeah.
I did like the costumes. It was very flapper era. And it fit because that's what they were going for. The only problem I did have was just the guy's shoes, because
shoes. You just didn't like the shoes.
Okay, I'll say that I like the style of the shoes, just not the color of the shoes, especially thrown with his outfit. Not for me. So, like I said, if it makes him happy,
the character perfect. I thought
if it makes the character happy, then that's what it's for.
And
but
I think it's
not be
perfect.
the shoes that I would bought.
I think it's perfect to play into the character. Because I know you don't like them because you're judging from a decade later, in which everyone needs to have a very tailored ensemble. Everything has to go together, right? The shoes do not.
I'm so entitled.
But as a young musician that sees something that he likes, he's not thinking about that. He's just thinking about the shoes. So whether they fit into his wardrobe is the last thing of his concerns. He just understands that he likes the way they look. Whether they'll look good on him is far from his mind.
Well, and he's focused on standing out and enjoying life, and those are the kinds of things that he's going to be the big show. The difference between him and the rest of the band is he's going to have his own band one day, and none of them are, right? They're going to be the kind of guys who help him, you know. He's gunning to be Ma Rainey, you know, and he knows he needs to stand out and look different and you know, all those kinds of things. So on to the dislikes. My one dislike, and it falls a little bit more, I think, into Papa Nugget's feelings of this film. Like, I understand why it's there. I understand why they did it. It's not a decision that I would have made. And it's the death at the end where Levee ends up stabbing Toledo. It fits the character and the frustration and the anger and the impulsiveness. I liked Toledo and I didn't want to see him die.
Everyone likes Toledo. Toledo.
It kind of came. Yeah.
Was
Toledo's
awesome.
the likable character in this. Yeah. And it's the culmination of all of those frustrations within the character, but it's also the representation of all of those frustrations of the youth and of anyone who's ever been promised something that wasn't delivered and those kinds of things. And so it's that culmination of that. It's just, why Toledo? He was so lovable, and so he had the least conflict with him the entire time.
And I think that's the reason.
That is the reason, is it's that after all of everything that Levee's gone through, probably the person he least wanted to harm or you know had the least animosity towards is the one who got
which
wrath.
it was obviously displayed like after the fact. Like you could see in Levee that his passion or his rage took control of him, and he was remorseful afterwards.
And he's asking for help, and he's trying to help Toledo after the fact, and just didn't realize. I didn't like that. I think there's a way they could have conveyed that without that specific scene happening. But I also understand the importance of it and why it's there. And yeah, I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think I would agree that I wish it didn't go, the film didn't go that way. Throughout the film, they're trying to show the anger and experience of all the characters. At the same time with Levee, they're trying to show that he can't handle it. In which why I think they chose to display him killing Levee. Toledo.
Killing Toledo.
And so it brings so much tension, and which is already a film rife with tension. But yeah, it goes in such a dark direction that I feel like it's almost too much for the film, and it ends there. And I think that's to me the thing that's difficult to swallow. Yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah. It's like I said, I don't disagree with the choice. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
And it's less of a, this is a bad thing to do in a movie, which is usually my complaints. This was just I didn't want that to happen.
They even kind of led up to it the situation happening, because in the beginning of, we'll say probably like the first 20 minutes, where Levee's walking around in his new shoes and people almost scuffed up his shoes as he was dancing around the band room. And then
hey, when you get new shoes, you don't want anyone messing them up.
Well, you don't, but it became a breaking point for him when he had a falling out with the owner of the studio, where he got swindled out of what he believed was going to be his big break.
His big ticket.
And then he walks back in, he's hurt, he's crushed, and then when Toledo scuffed up his shoes, it was the rage that took over. Yeah. So I mean, it kind of did lead up to it potentially happening. It just sucks that Toledo was the one that took the brunt of it.
It was the one thing that grounded him as a character was his music, and he had lost all of that. He'd been fired from the band. He wasn't going to be able to record his songs. He wasn't moving up in the world, which is what he thought. And
if you think about it, that's where he put his energy through life.
Yeah.
I would imagine like him growing up, he escaped through music. And so where he's at right now, he's still young, but he's like entering the world, and he's essentially getting swindled. As we stated early, he doesn't know how to deal and traverse those waters. He's trying to figure it out while trying to go along. And he gets screwed over because that's not his strong suit. I mean,
they summarize that. They summarize that really well with there's a back door to the rehearsal space that he's always trying to get open, and he finally does, and it's just a random like ventilation shaft. Like it's nothing. There's just a wall on the other side.
I didn't get that whole thing.
That was a problem I had as well.
So it's symbolic of he's trying to push through, he's trying to break through and make it in the world and get past this barrier that's holding him back, whether it's racial or it's age or it's not understanding the business or it's an emotional block or anything of those kinds of things.
And he realizes that it's not a real
he finally
thing.
breaks through, and it's not. And that's what that symbolizes a lot of what life was like in those time periods where you
snake oil.
And it's like the barrier that's in place is not, even if you overcome that barrier, you're still not going to get what you want. Like the system's built against you, and that's what it's symbolic.
Life's built against you.
Yeah, which is in and watching through some of the behind the scenes things, I think that's part that wasn't in the play. He's always just trying to get through the door in the play, but never actually does. So that's something that they added in.
Yeah, I think they didn't do a good job at portraying that, or at least I didn't pick up on it because I'm like, why is it? What's his fascination with this door? Like,
Well, the fascination with the door, but the fact that he was saying, yeah, that door wasn't there the last time we were here. And then the rest of the band were saying, no, that door's always been there or
Yeah.
whatever. And he keeps trying to break through the door. And then there's no
It's-
explanation. Was the door already there? Was it not already there?
Yeah.
Was that room just
It's because the fan doesn't
First
work,
off, like,
so they're
why
trying
is-
to open it up for a breeze. And so,
right? But it just seems really weird that there's a door to a 3x3 enclosed room outside.
well,
So
it's one of those
that's
things that
caught my hand.
none of the other band members ever try and touch the door. They all act like it's not even there. And that conversation where he's like, has this always been there? And they're like, yeah, it's all that barrier has always been there for us. Because they're the old dogs that have been around forever. So, Feathers, what didn't you like about this film?
So the one big thing that sticks out for me that I didn't like in this film is the sets, particularly the outside. The inside felt fine, where they're in the recording studio and the band room. But the outside, it felt fake. And I get that I get that the idea is more play-like, but just in the beginning, it felt like people were walking in front of a green screen, and it wasn't
which
quite
is
as
what
good
it
as it
was.
could have.
Yeah.
Right, but it wasn't quite as good as it could have been for CGI and making it look realistic. And like I said, I get that it's more play-like, but just in the beginning, that was starting to take me out. And then when it got into the band and the recording, I was like, oh, okay, this fits, this works. They're in this probably soundstage that's built these sets to be these rooms. But I didn't like the outside scenes. You described it, I think, best with Big Eyes, where it felt like a matte painting, where these people were walking in front of a matte painting and it wasn't as blended together as it could have been. And whether that was the style choice that they chose or just the constraints that they had in making this movie. Because, yeah, you can't go out to Chicago, Illinois and film it like it would have been back in the 1920s.
Yeah.
And so that was my problem, is it wasn't as cohesively blended together as it could have been. To make it seem like these people were actually in the 1920s.
Yeah, and
that was more distracting for me.
I didn't have any, nothing stood out to me. And honestly, I'm probably not as keen on identifying things like that as both of you.
Yeah.
But I believe it was Shutter Island was the one that really stood out to me, that we talked about, in which they were standing in front of the downward looking angle of the camera up into the sky and things like that, that really stood out to me. But yeah, I didn't. Okay. I didn't have any issues. And I was trying to be this is definitely a period piece. What is standing out there is out of place. Yeah. And to me, it seemed okay. I didn't have any problems.
It's the uncanny valley, right? It's almost like it's so good that it
But it feels
quite fit.
It feels over stylized. That
and I would have used
the color gradients went a little too much, even though this really didn't feel like the color gradients went up. But it's that same idea where you just pushed it just a little too far on the style of it, and then it became more distracting because of it. But like I said, when you got inside the building, it seemed more realistic, and I think that's just because they could build sets to represent that, but it's not as easy to build a set that represents Chicago, Illinois.
It's also one of those scenes that it stands out because that's a movie scene or a movie shot, and everything else is a play, and so stylistically it stands out from the rest of everything that's going on. So and these are minor complaints. It's always, it's like pointing out the Wilhelm scream. If you put a Wilhelm scream in a movie, I'm going to hear it and I'm going to be like, oh, okay, I'm done with this.
But that's what all the cool kids do.
And Lucas did it.
You mean the cool kids are the cool kids are the cool kids?
Yeah, you'll be the coolest.
Imitate the imitation of the imitation.
Yeah.
find your own Wilhelm scream, filmmakers, and put that in things.
Or create your own.
The random yell from some crazy thing you watched as a kid.
Create your own Wilhelm scream that tops the original, and then people will want to imitate your Wilhelm scream, and you will become infamous for it.
So do you have other dislikes?
I have not stated any of mine.
I was waiting for Nugget to say his, because I'm curious about what he didn't like about this.
Yeah, what I didn't like. So the main thing was I didn't like that this was based on a play. And mainly because outside of all of the amazing things they've done, like if you have the potential and the ability to make a movie, like you should use that medium and format to the best of its abilities. And I hate so heavily dialogue driven movies, because if I wanted that, I would go see a play. I would not watch a movie.
Or read a book.
Yes. So
both things you should do.
And
just maybe not in the context of a film.
probably the biggest example I can give is when Levee was explaining what happened to his mother. Like it was so focused on him, and I get it. It was emotional, and we could see the emotion that he was portraying. But like those are perfect times that you can use a movie to show other things while people are talking. Like, imagine that. It's a world we live in.
You thinking like flashback to that?
Yes. Yeah.
No?
I don't want to be like, what did he say? I can barely understand what he's saying because like I'm bad at listening. What? He's so emotional with it. Like, just show me the money. I don't want to listen to a 10-minute dialogue of him ranting about how terrible his life is. Show me. It's a movie.
I'm amazed that this didn't stand out to me, because that's one of the things I hate about movies is show me, don't tell me.
Exactly.
And that's what this was it was tell me, not showing me. And
that's the biggest thing I hated with this.
Well, the problem with that is you're trying to understand the backstory, but it's so much dialogue just thrown at you that you are missing it.
And I did.
So
I zoned out.
Much dialogue.
Like, what?
Well,
I zoned out. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like, keep my attention. If you got a guy rambling on straight for 10 minutes, regardless of how emotional he is about it, like, at some point, I'm not going to care. I'm going to give up caring. And that's what happened to me.
It's just amazing that was the exact opposite that happened to me, is because that pulled me into that more. And I care more about the character of Levee and less about anything else going on. I think if they did it the other way, I would care more about his mom. Mm-hmm. I'd empathize with his dad, and I could easily see how that story is probably a better, more entertaining movie to some people than what Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is. The story of his dad getting revenge for all that. Like,
I also think that you walked into this liking the idea that this was made from a play into a movie. And so you were already liking that. Whereas Nugget, he doesn't like plays to movies, so it was already more of a problem for him. So the fact that you often think that I want to be shown, not told, but in this case, it wasn't that. I think it just kind of it was the difference in the styles of what you both liked about this movie.
Yeah, it was able to pull me into the character where it pushed Nugget away from the character. And so,
I mean, everything that they did, like, it still pulled me in, but there were those times, like him describing his life that was too much. And I started drifting away because I'm like, his
rant against God that was like the next time they got back to that scene. Yeah. That did it for me. Like that one, I was kind of like, okay, let's just move on. Like I get it. And
like, it's okay, like the first few times, but then at a certain point you're like, okay, I understand the character and where he's going. Like, how much do I really care?
That first scene where he's going through what happened to his mom and that, that pulled me in. The second one, where another character is trying to kind of have a similar story, where he's telling a story about this thing, and Levee just won't let him. Like, it's no, this is the Levee show. I got to be involved. And then he goes completely off the rails, and he's trying to stab him, and it's like, where's your god now? And it's like, okay, this guy's crazy.
Yeah.
But it didn't pull me into the character. Like, it broke everything for me, and it was
at that point,
are we just going to keep running through that cycle on this?
Yeah, and at that point, to me, the character's established. Like, we know who Levee is. Like, and at that point, it's just like moving the needle. Like, how much further are you going to move it to crazy? Well, in which it did.
We know we know less of Cutler and
Slow Drag.
Player's name? Slow Drag.
Come on, how do you not remember Slow Drag?
I barely remember my own name most days, so
I'm not going to fault you.
Let's be honest there. But that's the moment where it's like, okay, are we going to have this scene for them? Which I think would have been equally kind of taxing, but it's like you're interrupting that moment for them. And so it's like, yeah, Levee's stealing the show from them. And yeah, no, I'll agree that show me, don't tell me is probably better.
But if this is recreated as a play, I get it. Yeah. Like, I 100% get it. I just hate it.
Yep. Now that the Nugget sass is over.
I think I said my change, FYI.
Yeah, as well. Yeah. Feathers.
Just what I talked about with the sets is I wanted a more cohesive blend of them and being less pulled out. And
is there something
what I imagine? Well, what I imagine is the band room and the recording room. I imagine that those were built on a soundstage. And I think that to change it, maybe you go to a place in Chicago that kind of has the old style 1920s right.
look,
and try and film around that. Or, again, I don't know the constraints that they had in this movie, but I would have preferred a more realistic feel to outside, and then it blended together with the inside to make it feel more of a cohesive movie instead of actual set pieces that these people were shooting on.
Well, I think one of the things that within that, trying to recreate older time periods with green screens or a screen in the background of some kind, the thing that stands out to me as being different than a movie is I'm used to backlots, where backlot city scenes are usually tighter streets and it feels a little bit more claustrophobic, which is actually less realistic.
Which is how this one felt. Like the streets were very narrow. Yeah. To me.
But you also have length down them, right? It's a street that runs straight for, you don't have that in backlots. Like backlots they're at weird angles. They have cross streets because they're built on a backlot. And so that's one of the tricks that they've used to kind of make it so you're not looking down the street. For me, that change would have been just play obviously didn't have that scene with the guys getting off the train and walking in and, just don't have that scene. But that I think would have made it feel even more like a play and overall more claustrophobic, to where it would have been the manager running around like all crazy and then he just opens the door and characters come in. Like that's the way a play would have been, as the set is the recording studio and the manager would be running around doing stuff and then somebody would knock on the door and he'd open the door. I just enjoyed this through and through, so I don't know if I'd really change a whole lot. Other than because it was kind of gross the way that Ma Rainey drinks Coca-Colas.
And everyone had to watch her.
Everyone had to watch her, and the massive intake of air every 3 gulps or whatever it was just, I don't know, kind of gross. But it also lends to the character really well, where she's, that's not just how she drinks. Like she's making a point with doing that.
She's the one in control here.
Yeah. She's being difficult to be difficult because that's her prerogative.
Yeah. And because if she's not difficult, she'll be taken advantage of. And so it's, and that's like, I get that. So I don't know if I would change it. I just didn't. Yeah, that would be that weird, weird random.
That scene in and of itself, outside of anything else, definitely is a scene that I'll remember.
Yeah.
So if you wanted it memorable, mission accomplished.
And it's similar to her makeup styles,
Yeah.
as well, where they're not Hollywood beauty. They're
I'll say this.
but
I
fitting to the character.
appreciated the environmental,
the sweaty people.
the sweaty people. Yeah. If that's what we want to say.
It's
I appreciate that because that's what the 20s were. Like you didn't have air conditioning. Like
it's
things
summer in
were
Chicago,
hot, and humid and like just life sucked. Even more than it does today.
Yeah. And it helps add to the tensions of all the characters because
because like you take cool people that are in a temperate climate.
Cooler heads prevail.
Like that's one thing. You get a bunch of sweaty people in a room. Yeah, people get angry because they're sweaty and they don't want to be there and they can't get away from it. Like that. I think that's something humanity, or at least the culture in America, has lost. Like, I don't think people realize
sweaty anger.
Yeah, I think people have not. I don't think people realize the way things sucked back in the day. Like just those simple things. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Just my rant. That's just my rant.
It's a little bit more nugget sass for you. I think I'll leave it at that as far as we go with all that stuff. So, also not a Sir Mix-a-Lot documentary. That's what Nugget. That's probably why
I was so disappointed. I'm so disappointed.
Overall, thumbs up from me. I say go see it if you haven't.
I would say see it, but know that you are walking into a play that is portrayed as a movie. Don't go in walking like Nugget and think it's something not that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a Sir Mix-a-Lot documentary, FYI.
It's not a Sir Mix-a-Lot documentary. Which, if it exists, maybe we should find that and review that next. So
I'd be game.
On that note, we'll leave you guys there. Let us know what you thought of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. It's on Netflix, so there's no reason to not see it. Other than, it's a movie based on a play and you might not like that. And it's not a Sir Mix-a-Lot documentary. But check it out. Let us know in the comments what you thought, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Adios.
See ya.